Hello, hello there, and welcome back to International Fathers. Where I'm your host and your creator, Nelson Moody Sr. As you know, I like to give a recap of last show before I start this show here. Last week we had the opportunity to have Divine Rhymes, a artist here in Atlanta by way of Chicago. His story was one that happens every single day of the lives of people, and also it happens to some friends of mine as well. He found out he had a child years after the child was born. I believe it might have been about 2 or 3 years. Instead of him backing off, he stepped up to the plate and got involved with this child. He's a little boy, and he's just been there ever since that. These are stories that you hear sometimes, but not enough time, because fathers are we are exceptional, we are real good. The second thing I want to talk about is you fathers out there who had opportunity to visit your child or children or call them. If nobody stopped you or nothing hindered you, why did you not take the time to go and see those child or children? It's very important that you go visit your children. It's important that you spend time with your children because one day they'll be grown and you can know or imagine what that may be. Today I took a little twist in the show today as far as having a guest on. I've been listening to talk shows, I've been looking at things in the news media, and it's just been compelling me to go a different twist. And I'm going to talk about the emotional side of fathers when it comes to their children. Because fathers can be some of the most emotional people on earth that I know when it comes to their children being hurt, wounded, scarred, or just frustrated in life at certain things. I myself have been emotional about my children and their children's lives, in my children's lives rather, not their children's lives. But we're going to talk about that right there, and you can call in at any time you feel like. The calling number is 470-251-4343. But before you start calling, I'm going to share some information with you a little bit about my emotionalness. My emotionals, when it comes to my children, started some years ago, back in like 1993 to 1994. Some of you may even know about that. Living in Baltimore, as I was going through a issue as far as custody and visitation rights of my oldest son, I started taking notes everywhere I went. And I started representing myself. I ended up going to the Supreme Court for custody of my son, visitation rights, and just to be a part of his life. You know, when you have a father that's involved with his children, I've always say that you shouldn't tamper with, mess with, try to break up or mess up the bond between a man and his children. When you have a man that is in the life of his child in every way that you can think of, you don't mess with that bond, whether it's a son or a daughter or sons or daughters. But I started writing my book called When a Judge Can't Judge, My Nightmare of the Court System in Baltimore, Maryland. And in that book, I highlighted a whole lot of highs and lows in my life, from being happy and sad to being sad, mad, angry, disgusted of the fact that attorneys and judges wouldn't listen to my side of the story, of me being allegedly abusive to my son for 10 years. They first started seeing this, as two of the witnesses said, at 6 months old, and they say I used to slap my son in the back of his neck. At 6 months old, I was in Germany, and the judge had all that information in front of her. But the psychological, the mentalness of it, the trauma of it, and the emotional part of it just overwhelmed me. But it didn't overwhelm me too much to where I couldn't stay focused as far as it being a part of my son's life. And that book went on to a second book, also into a screenplay. Then eventually I filmed a documentary that's on YouTube under the same name, When a Judge Can't Judge. Now fast forward it, you watching these things on TV, and you think to yourself that how can this happen to me? Recently, I've been started saying and showing a deck of cards on my Facebook page that we all get dealt a hand of cards in life. It's how you play them. And the way you play them, that deck of cards, is you play to win. So I remain focused in my son's life. And you still go through the trauma of being emotional. Women, mothers out there, and women who don't have children yet. Men can be just emotional as you can when it comes to a child. Any man out there that would debate or dispute that, I'd have to have a talk show with him privately to see why he don't feel emotional attached to his child or children, especially if something may have happened to them. I was at work 2 days ago, and this man and his wife were walking. They had 5 children. The 10-year-old boy had wandered off for about probably maybe 5 minutes. And 5 minutes away from your child is a long time. By the time I caught up with this man, he was talking to me. We found the son in about 45 seconds after we met up. When he saw his son, the emotions, I mean, he started crying like right in front of my face. This guy was about 6'5", about maybe 275. Size and height don't matter. It's that the emotion of him bursting in tears, and folks are watching, so I just consoled him. I gave him a little pat on the shoulder like that. And he soon, when the son came running to him, it was like that prodigal child that the Bible talks about. The son running back to the father, and the father just hugging him. But this guy, when he hugged his son, he sat down. The son was crying, the other 2 sons were crying, the daughter was crying, the mothers was crying. I started shedding a tear because I couldn't imagine a child of mine being lost or even snatched up, and you may not know how you may see them again, such as the movie Taken. I'm going to talk about some movies also that have that emotionalness of fathers in it. The movie Taken, when Liam Nelson's daughter was taken, and he went from one point to the other point, traveling around the world to find his daughter. He wanted to get to her, and she ended up seeing her dad at the last. Another movie was one of my favorite movies, is John Q, of the emotional feelings and behavior that Denzel showed towards his son, talking about his son is not going to bury him, he's going to bury his son, and all the things that he went through to get his son a heart. I mean, can you imagine taking people hostage in the emergency room? The man was serious about his son. Another movie, Finding Nemo, how Nemo's father traveled the ocean, fighting through everything and going through everything, almost giving up until he heard Daddy. The fact that he went that far looking for his son and the emotions of that song. I shed some tears on that movie too. Also, Daddy's Little Girls, of what the father went through with his daughters. The emotions of his daughters when they came to his house. It was, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning, and he wanted to get revenge. But prior to that, if you remember, in the principal's office, he wanted to fight the guy who was giving his daughter drugs. But he thought about what the judge said. But the emotional attachment that he had with his daughters, just to be there. Miss Doubtfire, as you recall that movie years ago, of how, I believe that was Robin Williams, who dressed up like a maid just to be a part of his children's lives, until his son, I believe, walked in the bathroom and he saw that, whoop, That's not Miss Doubtfire. You know, so the emotional part of fathers have on their children is just as high as anybody can see, anybody can imagine it. I myself, like I said, I couldn't imagine how that father was feeling when his 10-year-old son was gone for just that bit of time frame. Now, fast forward it, one of probably the most emotional times in my life when it comes to a child was when my youngest twin was diagnosed with cancer. About 8, 9 years ago, took her to the hospital. She said her heart was hurting. She was 7 years old. I could see her heart beating and you can hear it. We went to the hospital. We stayed in the hospital all night long. And I'm saying to myself, something must be wrong because they came back a second time and a third time for blood work. Got to the hospital about 9 o'clock p.m. About 4:30 in the morning, the doctor telling me, Mr. Moody, your daughter has leukemia. At that time, my life shattered. My world fell apart, and everything around me just froze like Coyote and Roadrunner, if you remember that. And I looked up at her, I said, what you just say? Your daughter has been diagnosed with leukemia. And it was like 6 people behind her, and one guy about 6'8", about 300 pounds. I don't have a thing against tall people. Y'all might think I do, but I don't. Tall people are all right with me. He told me, he said, and we want to admit your daughter. I said to myself, wait a minute. You tell me she have cancer, and now you're going to tell me what you're going to do with my daughter. I was like, sure, but they knew best. But that was a trying point in my life. Out of that, hello, we have a caller. Hello?
Hello there.
Hello there, how are you?
I am just incredibly wonderful. How are you?
I am wonderful. I can talk about that incredibly wonderful. This is Miss Tracy Smalls.
It is.
It is. How are you there?
I am just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, it's a great day. And tomorrow is going to be an even greater day.
Yes, it is.
How's everything on your end?
I cannot complain. I am wonderful. I am wonderful.
Great. Great. I love it.
Tracy Smalls is here in Atlanta. She recently organized a event called Black Men Acknowledgement Awards. And in this award, she acknowledged black men, black fathers, the role that they play in society. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna let her elaborate on it because she has that yearning from a woman's perspective that I have at a guy's perspective. I'm gonna let her talk about that and how she just feel about fathers, period.
Sure, I'd love to do so. Hello, audience. I just wanted to say to Nelson, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to come on and share a little about the Black Man Acknowledgement Award and what projected and what actually stemmed in my spirit to create such a phenomenal event. And that is, you know, and to no one, I don't want anyone to take it personal, but I can honestly say that I had the best daddy ever that ever walked foot on this earth. Oh. And I say that simply because daddy has gone on to rest over about 12 years now. And I mean, when I say it, he was an example of what a father is and should be, with his loyalty to me, to his commitment to his wife, to me and my other siblings, just and I wouldn't even say hard work, but just a dedication to be able to get up every day and go to work to provide for his family. those were what was exemplified from the best daddy ever that I could have ever asked for. I mean, the loving words, the caring words, the support, and just being able to go to him literally about any and everything that I had on my little heart to want to talk about. Mm-hmm. He was there. Very compassionate, just a gentle, kind-hearted person. And, you know, I owe this first to God for planting it into my spirit, and to give a special, oh my God, thank you so much, Daddy, for being the best daddy that you ever could have shown. Mm-hmm. And then to say, the second year for this Black Man Acknowledgement Award, the main objective as well was to project in the cognition, which is our mental stability, that gate that we have, that transpires and also goes into the eye gate of each and every one of us, mm-hmm. and the ear gate. I wanted to show a more positive societal image of the Black man, simply because from a societal perspective, we don't get that about our fathers, being Black fathers, that is. You know, it's either projected that they're criminals, which are in jail, or they're dead somewhere, but we don't oftentimes hear the fact of, or see, or even in the lyrics, that daddy is supportive, that daddy is going and picking up that child from his extracurricular activities, or that daddy is helping with homework. So I felt the need in my spirit to create such an event, to acknowledge the awesomeness, the brilliance, the greatness, the model that exemplifies the extraordinary that Black man actually shows on a day-to-day basis. Even the single fathers that are out there, that are handling and taking care of their children, and even working and doing the best that they can as far as co-parenting with, you know, someone that may be a little bit challenged, or, you know, being very difficult to co-parent with. You got those fathers out there that are actually doing what they got to do, and understanding that at the end of the day, it is about that child.
Mm-hmm. You still there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead. But you finished?
Yes.
Now,
yes, I was.
Now, what you just now said in a nutshell is another reason why I started International Fathers, because for years, I used to get tired of seeing talk shows just talk negative about fathers, period, across the board. And I say that the positive of fathers don't come to the limelight as if some celebrity type dads may get that recognition, or some high profile politicians. But I said that included in International Fathers, I will have a platform to where as though fathers could come on here, mothers or sisters or aunties or daughters could come on here and talk about the goodness and the positivity of their fathers, since the media won't do it. And this right here, I've started this back and made it first. Jack Trent and Yannette Keith, they took a chance with me in bringing me to Status Network. I pushed this for 15 to 17 years back in my hometown in Baltimore, but you see it wasn't biting. I get down here in Atlanta, and I'm here now. So by them giving me this platform here, I said to my children, I'm a single dad too. My twin girls are 16. My son just turned 15. Although sometimes he thinks he's my father, and then one of my twins think that she's my mother. You know.
Okay.
but the platform that they've allowed me to have here, I tell my children, in at night to God, I ask God to increase my territory, as well as use me to bridge fathers and children internationally, because I know for a fact that it's millions and millions of fathers out there like me and there's millions of women, mothers like you that will talk good about fathers.
Yes.
And you made
You're absolutely correct.
and you made a statement earlier, and we're gonna debate this. My children had the best dad.
Yeah, we definitely have to debate that.
Okay, okay.
But it's okay. I love that one.
We're gonna have to, and my children
Yes.
would and should and could stand up to debate that right there. I'll debate it with
Awesome.
you, but fatherhood is to me the best thing that ever happened to a man besides a spouse and God, or God and a spouse.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I just embrace it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's priceless to me.
Yeah,
You know, it's
and that's a great thing.
yeah, it's
And
priceless.
you know, I mean, I applaud you for what you're doing. And like you said so many times, you know, fathers are just not recognized. And I do want to say as well, you know, to those of you that might not have had the best experience from your father, if you can find somewhere in your heart to just forgive your father. Because most times, sometimes, you know, we never could really conceptualize or understand why is it that daddy wasn't there, or why is it that, you know, that mama might have talked very negatively towards and about your father. So like I said, there's so many dynamics as to why a father might not have been or is not presently in their children's lives. So I just wanted to put that out there, you know, to kind of work on those spirits in the hearts of those that may not have, you know, or have had a father figure that was loving and caring to them,
Right.
you know, to be able to understand that in some cases, by no fault of their own, they probably or might have given you only the tools that they knew to give to be a father. So please find forgiveness in your heart for them and just kind of let that marinate in your spirit to try to understand that there could have been or is reasoning behind you didn't have that image of a father in your life.
Wow.
But guess what? It is never too late to be able to try and attempt to have and build a better, happier, healthier relationship with your daddy. Because there's some great daddies out there, wonderful daddies, awesome fathers out there.
Wow. Thank you. Those are seriously some compelling words, and I approve of that message. And we may see Tracy Smalls in a future show to elaborate on what she's talking about.
Sure, I would love to be. You just call, say the time and day, and I am there willingly.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Right.
You have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. Wow, nice and powerful word there. Let's get back. Woo, Tracy, thank you for that. Woo. Oh, where was I? Okay, we're going back to the award that I was telling you about my daughter with cancer. Later, they made a video based upon that experience, and then the hospital ended up getting the best medical video of the year for 2014. The lady who ran the cancer center had showed me this award. I thought it was for me to look at. She said, "No, this is yours." Here's the video right here. Immediately, she was admitted to the hospital. 44 hours later, I walked out the hospital to get some rest and come back the next day. My world was just crushed. My responsibilities as a caregiver requires me to bring my daughter to the hospital 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. Her appointment can last from 4 to 5 to 6 hours. My situation is complicated because I am a single father. A lot of times my children do accompany my daughter to her treatments because there's nobody else who will be able to watch them for me while I bring my daughter to the hospital. A whole lot has changed at home because now I have to feed her a different type of diet. I have to make 2 different meals. I have to keep the house extra clean because of her immune system. At the end of the week, after doing all that, most times I'm just exhausted. I put so much priority and focus on my daughter that a lot of times I forget to take care of myself. It's important for me to work to care for my daughter and my other children. I am a security officer at a medical institution. My management staff had allowed me to change my work schedule around. I will be off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I will work Thursday through Sunday with Friday a double shift. I managed to get all 40 hours in 1 week. Sometimes being a caregiver can be hard as being a cancer patient because everybody's focused on the patient. Nobody asks me about how I'm doing. There's a lot of up and down roller coaster ride, emotional, psychological things that you go through. And the whole time you're looking at this child who is going through this, who is helpless and don't know what's going on. So you have to more or less be that comfort also to her. You also kind of comfort yourself. And there has been some moments where I had my time of me crying, but never in front of her. It's always been at nighttime. I pray to God to give me strength for each day that I deal with this. I look at my daughter and I just smile. And that gets me through most of my nights and my days. Hello, yes. And that was a very, very emotional, sad time in my life. Seeing and watching my daughter go through those cancer treatments there, it touched me like you wouldn't imagine. Anybody out there who has a child who developed an illness like that can definitely understand where I'm coming from. Call the number is 470-251-4343. You know, the emotional part of dads is, as I said before, it just go from 1 to 100, and you can be emotionally drained as far as a situation like that. Now, throughout all this, I still maintained enduring and persevering my talk show on YouTube in Baltimore and the things that I do with fathers around in my community. A guy was at this event that Miss Tracy Smalls orchestrated by the name of BJ Bowens. He's now over in London. How you doing, sir? If you're listening, if you're watching, he talked about a lot of things, but he reiterated the word determination. He broke it down to determination. Means that you're going to do something despite of all obstacles that may be thrown your way. And I was determined, even through going through that with my daughter, to keep pushing to get to this part here. I've been in 12 different magazines and newspapers in Baltimore. Then I found myself in an unfortunate one down here. I say unfortunate because it's not a magazine that you will probably give high attention to, that you're proud to be of. But I started sharing some information on Facebook about probably 2 weeks ago. Again, a compelling thing, hearing stories about dads around the world, hearing stories about dads here in Atlanta, and just watching things on YouTube. My children and I my two daughters, 16, and my son, which is now 15, we end up finding ourselves homeless for 46 days through no fault of our own. But throughout that, I still managed to always focus and also be determined to get to where I'm at now. By me being a veteran, I got assistance from VA, and the rest was history. They asked me to share my story. I spoke twice about it in order to give people hope who are homeless, to give that father hope who is homeless with a child or children. And the situation that I was always faced with is that, well, there's not enough or too many places to where as though a father with children can go. If it's a family, a mother and father, they can go, or mother with children, but it was hard to find a place that will allow a father and his children. Again, an emotional part of that. But I kept my drive on. I kept being determined to get to where I'm at now. And at the end of the magazine, the last chapter, it writes and it talks about that, how I just never gave up. I was determined. And when B.J. Bowman was talking at this event on Sunday, all that was resonating within me, and it had me to be more compelling, saying the emotional side of a father towards his children. I stayed determined. I stayed focused. Most of all, though, I kept my faith in God that He was going to bring us out. He was going to bring us through. As old folks used to say, that there's no testimony without a test. Now, we can have church in there if y'all want to. I just got to bring some people in here. But as you look at the pictures of the magazine there, like again I said, you can see them on Facebook, is United Way through Atlanta, which was a very nice organization, but the emotional, I said that word about probably 20-something times, because some in society don't think that fathers have emotions when it comes to their children. I had to, in certain ways, fight, protect, and defend my children, emotionally, mentally, or psychologically, and in a case physically, as you have seen inside the book, it talks about my son being physically assaulted by his mother's boyfriend, which is now the husband, and nothing was ever done about it. They didn't believe my story. Their story was recanted, even though court documents and police records and court records show that my son was physically thrown against a wall. The emotional part of that, you know, and again, like I said, you hear